Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in for an all-new edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. To my left, your right at home. It's not his own contract, but he can do his own intro if he wants to.
Coming live and direct to you from a folding chair in the ODPH studio. I am not the pop culture connoisseur off the cuff Tom. No, instead, I am Rich, the head of NI Wrestling. And as always, Ken, it is a pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. As we're doing the new setup here with StreamYards here, so bear with us on the technical difficulties, but we're going to be bringing you a great story to talk about because obviously there is a lot happening in the land of the MCU. Tonight, as we're recording, Ironheart is debuting on Disney+. And in a couple weeks, Marvel returns to the big screen with one of the most highly anticipated films of the year with Fantastic Four: First Steps. And when it was announced that one Robert Downey Jr. was going to be playing one Victor Von Doom in the MCU movie Avengers Doomsday that we know of, obviously he's tied to the Fantastic Four. And there's a lot of speculation about what he's going to be doing, how's he going to be playing, how is this all going to go down? So for tonight's episode, we thought we'd dive into a book that definitely has a lot of implications if you've been following Robert Downey Jr.'s social media, because in one picture that I believe was on his Instagram, there was this book, Doom, from 2024, Sanford, Greene, Jonathan Hickman, Rochelle Rosenberg, and Joe Carmina are the team behind it. And it is a very interesting look into the landscape of arguably Marvel's best villain of all time, maybe even comics. Would you say, Rich?
I mean, he's up there. I mean, for me, I'm always more of a DC guy, let's be honest. But I respect where, what Doom has come from and how he works. And as far as reading this particular story arc for it, it's kind of interesting that this would be the one that Robert Downey Jr. would be putting on his own Instagram and stuff and kind of putting out there. Not because it's bad. It's just a real character study of, I'm assuming the Dr. Doom he hopes to be.
Yeah.
So it's not like your classic Doom story, as in like, what we're kind of, used to. This is kind of the start of where we kind of are now with God Emperor Doom.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting place that they want to go with, and especially with how the story is, because with Doom, if you're getting him into a social atmosphere where it's just him, it's a very unique peek into his psyche, because he is a very complex villain. In his own mind, he believes he's the one that is fit to rule the world and wants to do it for his own greater good, but for the good of the people too at some times. It is interesting to see how this all plays out, especially right now with the big crossover that's happened in Marvel Comics.
I was going to say, you were talking about a guy who named himself God Emperor Doom.
Well, yeah.
It's not like I don't think hubris is his thing.
Not really. He believes he's a man of destiny.
He believes he's a god. He believes he's an emperor. He believes it. And I mean, technically he is. I mean, at this point in juncture, he's sorcerer supreme. He's a god, in a lot of ways. He's an emperor, so it all is kind of true in a way. So he's not a liar, which is kind of even what makes the character a little more dangerous, in my opinion, is that yes, he's full of himself, but in theory, he is all those things. He is one of the world's greatest sorcerers. He's one of the smartest people to ever live as well. And then you mix that, when you mix it all together, between magic and technology and everything, it does make him a god.
Yeah. And I mean, it definitely adds a little more mystique to him, if you will, because he's not just an average villain by any stretch. And like I say, with the pedigree that Rich just went over too, there's a lot going on with him. And especially for this tale as well. Because when he has an opponent like he has facing in this book, it is truly next level.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to be doing is deep diving into 2024's Doom book. So super chat, throw in your favorite Doom comic story. I definitely want to hear what everybody's saying about this one. And we are going to kind of give our spoiler-free statement about the book before we get into it. Then it's a full deep dive into it. So spoilers are going to be popping up here. You have been warned. So, Rich, that being said, give me your spoiler-free statement on this book.
Spoiler-free statement. This is an amazing character study. I think that it's very unlike what you're kind of used to, and especially, I mean, actually, I guess we're kind of used to it with Jonathan Hickman in a lot of ways as well. It's very, and I don't want, this is not a bad thing. It's very wordy.
Yeah.
So this is more like really delving in. You're looking at a story where you're going to see kind of where Doom was, and then like his return, if you will. And then it just dives into, for lack of better term, the madness that is Dr. Doom, because you're going to get really into like his brain. And like I said, this is being from 2024, this is really kind of where we're setting into where he is now, because the Doom of old, you have a lot of jealousy, you have a lot of holding back, you have a lot of, animosity. This Doom almost feels more methodical.
Mm-hmm.
And now where we're at in the story, fast forwarding without talking about what's going on now in the universe, now where we're at, we're seeing that methodical Doom really be taking over, which, like I said, I'm more interested as we go through this and we talk spoilers. I'm going to be more interested to kind of tie into why I think that Robert Downey Jr. is teasing this Doom because of the character arc that it goes on.
Definitely could see that. This book is definitely a deep dive into his psyche and to really kind of get a true understanding of the man behind the mask, because it is multi-layered, much like a Jonathan Hickman story always is, because if you know his work from Fantastic Four, Avengers, and the Krakoan era, just to name a few, he does not do anything very short. It is very building, it's layered. There's a lot of moving parts involved that when you finally get to the end of said story, there's always a payout. And there's always one here. And this one really gives a true insight to what Doom is all about, I feel. That is, it almost leaves it up to the audience about to make your decision about what he is really all about, which I like, because he is just one of the most charismatic, but yet complex characters in all of comics. So to see it come on a grand stage like this, I really think they hit where they needed to hit with that. So that being said, we're just going to jump right into the book as is. And there's a lot happening here because, I mean, Rich, let's talk about this. This is the opening pages of the book where you see a broken Doom flying in space.
Yeah, you see Doom is pretty much seen better days. And as you come into this, the wording in as we are going to reveal who is talking at the first few pages, we don't see who's talking, but as we reveal, they're hunting down the remnants of Doom, but they don't even think that Doom is alive. So they're doing vitals, and the robot, because you can see the difference in obviously the lettering. The robot on the ship says, there's a faint pulse, but usually that's not enough to keep somebody normally alive. But we're dealing with, then we find out real quick, hey, we're dealing with Doom, so magic is involved, so he doesn't necessarily have to have a pulse going on, or strong pulse, to still be alive. So it really looks like Doom is pretty much gone, as they can't believe that they found him to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those situations, without giving away who finds him, which I know we're going to talk about in a second. It's kind of interesting that, pretty much we saw the death of Doom. That's why I use the word in the spoiler-free portion. You're getting a rebirth here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You're definitely getting an eye-opening experience, especially seeing Doom, who is one of the most feared characters in all the MCU, defeated handedly. Like, you see the broken armor and body of Victor Von Doom just flying in space. So then when you hear the narration about somebody saying, okay, we just found him. Well, sure enough, we find out who that is, and that's Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. So to see her flying in space and tracking him down, it does make a very big statement early that she's going to find him. And obviously they have a very, deep relationship on their own, right? She does refer to him as uncle. And obviously, if you know the story behind them in the comics, it makes a lot of sense there. And it's just a matter of when she's working with Herbie, the robot that we're seeing a lot more now in the Fantastic Four trailers, you're seeing that obviously they're coming to find him. And when they find him, obviously he is not in the best of shapes. So when you see him now come through, it's just piecing together, okay, what has happened? So they wind up taking him back to his ship, or dare I say to his robot there.
Yeah, because we basically find out in that distance that it would be great to take him back to the Shi'ar planet, but they can't obviously do that.
Yeah.
Because we're going to find out pretty much why in a second, and also why his ship or robot is all destroyed. But thankfully, they do have the former robotic body, if you will, of Doom that they can go to and repair him in the head of it, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it's sci-fi at its finest here. But as we're seeing there, it makes a lot of sense. And then you can see on the graphic we're going to throw up, we see what Doom was fighting, and it is definitely a heavyweight contender, one that has struck fear throughout the entire universe of the Marvel, cosmos. And we find out that he was trying to take on Galactus.
Yes.
So, Rich, when you're seeing this moment, like, what is the first thing going through your mind?
Well, I think it was really cool. Like the reveal here is basically Doom has come back online. They get him in as kind of very Darth Vader-esque. They have him in like this stasis unit, and they're kind of like, she's bringing him up to speed, telling Herbie not to give too much of the super serum because they're going to use that for something. We'll get to that in a minute. But they're kind of trying to just stabilize him, and then eventually he's talking very, very little because he's still coming back. And he's kind of like, he asked her like, what happened, why, he doesn't recollect what even happened. And she's like, well, you did try to fight Galactus in this giant robot that you put together with all your powers and everything. And you underestimated, basically your flaw was you underestimated Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so what about your father? And it goes into this whole like, well, after you underestimated Galactus, everybody else did too.
Yeah. So you start getting the breakdown of what has happened in this fight. And it is very telling because right there on the screen, you see the Doom Titan was trying to go one-on-one with Galactus. He underestimated the true power source of Galactus. And as you see that he's just getting destroyed, and she was saying like, first that your Titan was broken, now you were broken. And to have that moment hit, I mean, that is one that instantly, like we're talking, this is the opening pages of the book. You're seeing these characters really assess what has gone down, and Galactus just destroying and just going on his own path of rage. And it's one that you kind of go like, okay, well, like trying to process how Doom handled this, that he underestimated him, but everybody else waited too long. And that is a key point that Valeria says here, because when he's like, well, what did your father do? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. We find out what the plan was. And the plan was about sending every single Marvel hero and villain teaming up, because I think everybody understands at this point, this is what's going down. And this is not like, if we lose this, we lose everything. The world is gone. So you see a plethora of Marvel heroes and villains teaming up to go fight Galactus. And we find out very quickly that they chose poorly, because Galactus takes out everybody, because his power source that everybody thought he was keeping leveled, he was so, his hunger took over almost to the point of possession on him.
Yeah, she does make reference to the fact that he was the Galactus for forever was very methodical. You could judge his timing, kept his hunger in control. But then after defeating Doom, it seems like the path of rage, if you will, just went out of kilt and went from planet to planet, just destroying planet after planet, being the real world eater until he got to Earth. And then when he got to Earth, he came up against Earth's mightiest warriors, if you will.
Yep. And
he handled them very easily. And then, as she goes on, he goes and continues on and takes out, the galaxy's defenders and guardians, and everybody's gone. Like it's a crazy scenario. And Doom is sitting back at this point in juncture, now a little more coherent, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of assessing the situation and assessing Valeria at the same time, saying, well, so obviously you're here, so you must have figured out what he's after, right? And she has to admit no.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an interesting study, because it's like Doom has you can tell by Doom's responses that Doom has the answers, but he's not willing to give the answers up front. It's almost like he wants her to say what she knows, even though it's almost like a distrust without distrusting. It's kind of a weird scenario.
It's a weird dichotomy. No, I agree with you on this. Like, this was something I thought with the dialogue was very interesting, because we know that there's been a 2-year time gap from when they find him and Earth's demise, because Earth is just left as an empty shell now. So when she's now out there in space, he's still processing everything. But we have to remember at this time too, he is now just coming back from however long he's been floating in space, that he's very incoherent. He's not the Doom that we know. He's gaining back that confidence, that ego, but he's also trying to assess the situation. And this is all just everything is just moving so fast around him because he's just trying to process everything so quick. And to kind of wrap the head around that, oh, the heroes of, or the most powerful beings on earth fell. How? Why? What went wrong? And just to kind of see him do the breakdown of it. I thought it was very interesting.
But you could also tell that he's, as well as she's telling him, he's also piecing it together for himself.
Yeah.
So like he kind of, it's like he's asking questions with knowing the answer. It's kind of like a strange like confidence. And I want to point out that there's some scenes where we get to see his face.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's almost unrecognizable. I know there's a couple of the pictures it'll show, but he's almost unrecognizable. He's kind of like, when we say he's a shell of what he was, like his armor is pretty gone. He is just really a mess. Like Galactus not only destroys the Titan, but destroys the man inside the Titan. Like it's a miracle. If it wasn't for magic, he wouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
And so one of the tie-ins, because I said we were going to go into some spoilers, one of the tie-ins is I was kind of thinking to myself, what if part of the reason why he wants to throw this Doom, not only just because methodical, because we'll get into that even more as the story goes on, but what if part of it is we've been wondering why Doom and Tony have the same face, and there's a lot of people speculating about why. What if Doom had something happen where he was unrecognizable and he chooses the face of Tony Stark for obviously his own purposes, because obviously he knows he's playing chess. And that would be a perfect reason why an RDJ would put this out there. I'm just throwing conspiracy theories out because I feel like that is kind of one of those ones that maybe nobody was looking at. And looking at this story, looking at a very methodical Doom, looking at having to put yourself back together with either magic or science, that would be one of those face-off moments, if you will.
It is very plausible. I like the face-off reference. But because I almost think I'm getting a little sidetracked with it, but super chat, definitely throw your picks in about this as well. Why the face of evil now in the MCU is one beloved Tony Stark. I fully think he does a possession or he does a magical thing because he's going to blame the destruction of Latveria on Tony Stark. And what better way to ruin him than take his face and ruin his image and his legacy? Like, that's where I think they're going with it.
Also knowing that the people you're going to come up and fight against revere that face.
Yes.
Is going to set up interesting things, because will those people fight hard seeing that face? That face is going to at least buy you a second.
Yes.
And that's all really, if you think about it, and as we go on in the story, and even later on, if you look at the Dr. Doom character, that's all Doom needs is a second. He just needs that pause. If he can make if he can make his enemy pause, that gives him enough time to do what he needs to do. And I think that that's another reason why a face off, if you will, whether it's through magic or science, is a perfect way to kind of set up the stage. Because I've always said, and this is my pick, so whenever it comes Doomsday, we have to still wait a year. But like whenever we get to that point, I've always said that if I know they didn't announce Spider-Man for the movie, but Spider-Man showing up in the third act of Doomsday and saving the day only until the mask gets knocked off and he sees Tony. And then what will Peter Parker do when he sees his hero?
Yeah.
He's not going to pull the trigger, if you will. And that's going to be kind of almost like the Avengers, the last set of Avengers movies, an Infinity War kind of thing. Because if you remember when you went into an Infinity War, you get to the end and they pause on Thanos, and that's what allows him to get the snap off initially.
Should have took the head.
Should have taken the head, right? Hence why Thor doesn't make that mistake twice.
Yes.
Right? So, although it does down the second time, as we know from the movies. But, like, if you're looking at it like that, you can have a similar thing set up because he sees Tony, he can't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I agree that would be some good stuff. But
yeah, I think that they're going to have to obviously mess around with it. And I think to touch on here, yeah, Doom has to kind of rebuild himself in this manner too. That he obviously took the big L and he can't handle that. So when he has to kind of start processing about what's transpired here, you see him, obviously Galactus is still, going through this cosmos. He's taking out the cosmic heroes. That's a thing. And then even seeing him face off with the Celestials. Like, this is a big moment. Like, this is not something that any
this whole pantheon of Celestials, and she goes, I warn you, you don't really want to watch what happens.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Galactus she's going to the point where saying Galactus is so powerful at this point and so, driven that he just wiped out the Celestials in a disturbing manner. Even for somebody talking to Doom, it was a disturbing manner.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting catch, but that's where we kind of find out what Doom's motivations are too. Like what Galactus's motivations are, because Doom figured it out.
Yes. And as we see too, Valeria has now figured out how to heal Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And also come up with a crazy concoction of and the super soldier serum and refuse him. So he almost becomes godlike in this moment too, which is a wild combination, but desperate times are calling for desperate measures.
And also gives him pretty much 3 arc reactors.
Yes.
Because like you're putting him back together. So he's got super serum. He's got Earth. He's got magic. He's got these reactors in this new suit that she gives him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's once again setting the stage for what would later become what we have now. It's kind of interesting to see this rebuilding of Doom in almost a different image. Of course, he's going to go towards his normal form at some point.
Yeah.
But this power image is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, because it's one that obviously has refused him. And like I say, when we find out the plan that Galactus has, because obviously destroying one universe creates a new one.
So yeah, after you get done, so basically what happens is when you destroy a full universe, a new universe will begin. However, the Celestials are also in charge of machinery and that can create new universes. So he took them out so he could actually create new universes as he chooses.
Yeah.
So basically he's going to this machine that can jumpstart a new universe now instead of just waiting until he takes everything out, and literally would then be able to universe hop and just become seriously powerful. And so Doom puts this together. He thinks Valeria has put this together and she hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so Doom finally offers up like, no, this is what he's doing. He's trying to give himself an infinite power source. And so, he must have discovered this and that's why he's doing it. So now our only shot of taking out Galactus is using his strength against him and making it his weakness. And that is, we have to attack him while he's trying to use this machine.
Yeah, because he's basically created a new ultimate nullifier,
Mm-hmm.
which is just wild. Like I say, I love how they went for the deep dives of the Galactus mythos, and obviously the ultimate nullifier, a long time problem solver, if you will, for him. And I like how Hickman was kind of just teasing this, because like I say, we do the slow burn to find out what he's doing, and then when he's getting all this power, and this is when Doom basically says, like, I have to stop him. And then it kind of is a point too that he says this line, like when Valeria says we have to stop him, and he goes, we certainly have to.
Mm-hmm.
Or we certainly must try. I thought that was a very interesting line, especially coming from him, because you don't really see that kind of teamwork, if you will.
Yes, but kind of what's weird is like when you first hear it, you think that, and I'm not going to jump to the ending, but when we get to the ending, it's almost like at this point in juncture, I feel like Doom is already thinking 4 steps ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he knows how this is going to end. So that's why the wording of we must certainly try is very fitting when we find out the end of the story.
Yeah.
Because technically only one succeeds.
Yes. And it is an interesting setup with this too. But like I say, the banter between Valeria and Doom is amazing too. Even when she says like, you're not up to speed, so to speak. And he's like, me at 10% is basically better than everybody else on this planet. So like I say, the swagger that he has is coming back.
Oh yeah.
And like I say, the confidence that's almost like one of his extra superpowers.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, he's at this point in juncture, he's got these long diatribes that really kind of lets you inside the mind of this new Doom. And like I was saying earlier, this is where you start to see the method, like what we've become to know now in the story, where he is uber methodical and he understands that you have to be 5 steps ahead of everybody, because if not, that's where he made his mistakes in the past. And it's weird to say this because he's arrogant, but there's almost a humbleness to how he's talking to her too.
Yeah.
It's a very calm, this is kind of where we need to go. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. And it's kind of just weird. Like even though arrogance is still there, he's humble about it to the point that he understands that if he gets too arrogant, that's where he messes up. His arrogance is what allowed Galactus to put him in the position he is in currently. So he won't let that happen a second time.
Yeah. And especially there's the respect level too. I mean, they've had a very unique history between the two of them throughout comics. So to see that respect level, it does make sense, but still, there's still that little zip that Doom still throws in there because, well, he's Doom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot of arrogance, but you can see that it's this weird, like I said, the best way to describe it is I feel like this is where you get to see a real method behind his madness. Not saying that he was just all nilly-willy before, but like I said, there were certain things that always held him back. And this is starting the run that we are now, where you see that there's this Doom has this whole other, like there's a method. No matter what he does, there's a reason he does it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the smallest of things or the largest of things, and to defeat that Doom is very hard because of which.
Yes. So as we see, Doom goes on the offensive, and we do get introduced to the new heralds of Galactus, which is a wild scenario in its own right too. And it's very familiar faces that we know from the MCU or the comics universe too, because as soon as it pops up on screen here, like I say, we do this live, folks.
Yeah, you just might have to click it again.
There we go. We do see the Molecule Men show up. And this is a moment that, like I say, when I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh, this can't be good. This is definitely not. And Doom doesn't even blink. He is just basically, I'm strong enough, at this moment to face any foe. That should be, but ever should be my end. This is my final stance, final words of Doom. And he immediately goes on the offensive. And I love how they set this up too.
This is great. Like his whole, so the whole time he is taking on the heralds, being the Molecule Men, he is literally telling them that their lives are ending.
Yeah.
He is literally like, this is the day that you've came, and it's very eloquent and it's very matter of fact. This is the day, this is just a normal day for me, but this is the day that you came across Doom and your world ends, your life ends. That's it for you. And it's just this weird, the entire time that he is just destroying them is literally, it's a weird type of crap talking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't explain it better than that. He's just literally telling them in a matter-of-factly way what he's doing. Basically, it's a Tuesday for Doom.
Yeah.
But this is your last day.
Yeah.
Enjoy your last final moments as I destroy you.
Yeah. Because he just literally goes on the offensive, and this is kind of like his rebirth. Like you alluded to earlier. Like him coming back and just decimating these powerful heralds that are right in front of him, and he doesn't even bat an eye. And I love the artwork here too.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I say, this is just next level stuff.
Oh, the artwork's fantastic. The only thing that I'm going to be honest, the only thing I wasn't a huge fan of the artwork was the redesign for Doom in this, and I'm glad that they went back to a more later on. They went back to a more normal Doom look, but that's not saying that it's not good. It's just, I don't know. I just like the classic Doom look.
It's classic, but I think they wanted to show the difference of time.
This makes me as a wrestling fan, this makes me remember when they put the Undertaker in the mask after he broke his face.
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? Because there's the Doom mask is like this purplish mask. It looks a little weird. Not saying that it's terrible. I'm a fan of that iconic Dr. Doom look. The metal mask, the green, but. With that being said, the art still is fantastic. Like when you're looking at that powerful picture of Doom as he's standing there and he's sucking all the power in at the same time that he's just flying all over and just destroying them and 50 different things. And the Molecule Men you can tell they never had it together.
Yeah.
These are, beings that are technically one being that's three beings, and they have the powers of the Herald, and they literally never get a scratch on Doom.
Yeah, because Doom is basically just handling business like he does, because now he's uber powered, but it makes sense. And especially to see this display, like I say, he's taking care of business handedly. Even when Galactus shows up and confronts Valeria, which, I mean, this is a pretty powerful scene in its own right, because she says, as her ship's about ready to explode, I want you to know something. You were always good to me. You protected me. You looked after me. I just want you to know I loved you for it. And then you see the explosion happen here on screen. This is a moment right here on the right side. Like I say, I read this and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so basically she gives up the ultimate sacrifice. That's why I said earlier when Doom is kind of having this whole diatribe about, what we must try. That's why I said I feel like there's part of him that knows that, it's not that he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. I don't want to portray it that way, but there's part of him that knows that she's probably not going to come out of this. So he's kind of I think that's why his wording is as such, is oh, we'll try. And knowing that he's going to succeed, because obviously with her sacrifice brings down what Galactus needs to kind of be able to defeat Doom at this point in juncture. Mm-hmm. And now because of her and bringing him back and all the things that she gave him, we're talking God level Doom.
Yeah.
We're like I said, we're basically welcome to the era of God Emperor Doom.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting introduced to here. Like this is not even the, Doom was always powerful, but this is next level power. Like you're talking about, like I said, later on, we're going to see the power to create pretty much in a new reality.
Oh, completely. And then we start heading into the final round too.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a moment too that, like I say, you start seeing Doom really level up, and you also get like a great glimpse. And I apologize, the screen is not popping up here for
That's okay,
whatever reason. But this is when you kind of have that flashback moment too, and you get the history of Dooms, if you will, and really kind of get like where he is. There we go, right there in the middle of the screen. So we obviously see him powering up, getting ready for the final fight. That middle scene though, that is like the true essence of Doom right there. And I really thought like they nailed the point home, because it's just kind of that inner monologue, so to speak. Life ends for all of us. You kind of see just how he's reliving that in his own head, and literally leading right into the final page where he is ready to go against Galactus. And this is a moment when you see Eternity, the Watcher, the Living Tribunal. You see all the cosmic beings of the MCU that show up for like the universe-ending events are here. And literally that final shot of him just standing ready to go just cements everything. And he's like, embrace Doom and laugh in the face. Like he's just the defiant, godlike attitude that he's always had, but this is just ramped up to 1,000. I mean, I thought this was just a strong way to end this. Would you not agree?
Oh, I agree. And here's the thing. I also think as much as he's reflecting on his life and his times and his tribulations, it is still going back to what he was doing with the Molecule Men, just to Galactus now. He is now basically saying out loud that, hey, every being comes to an end. And he's not talking that he's coming to an end. He's basically telling Galactus at this point in juncture, we're about to dance and this is going to be the end of you. And that's why I think that beautiful shot in the background of the Watchers and everybody in the background is kind of watching is going to be watching the death of Galactus, without spoiling too much further in the stories, but that's what we're left with, because he, like I said, he leaves with, you're going to meet your doom.
Yeah.
And that's such a it's a classic line. It's a great line. But like I said, there's that diatribe. You can look at it in two ways. He is kind of editorializing his existence, but at the same time, he's also kind of telling Galactus, hey, your time is now. Every being ends, you're about to end, and that's going to be it for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that was really great about this issue. Super chat, let us know your comments here. But obviously, we always talk about the good. We cut it right down the middle. Was there anything you really didn't like about this issue?
No, I mean, I'm being nitpicky by saying that the redesign of Doom, which of course they changed up anyways after the fact, but that's just nitpicky. Outside of that, there's a couple like it's interesting to me. I like the story, like the humanity story. I feel like it moved too quickly.
Yeah,
it sounds like something like usually we're like, oh man, it's good when things are like hitting a good pace. But I feel like they could have gotten a lot more of dragging the story a little longer. I understand that the story is like 42 pages, I do believe.
Yes.
So it's, not counting the extra stuff that you get at the back of the book. But I think that they could have gotten a second issue out of this and really kind of, because I feel like they rushed the return of Doom a little bit. And the reason I say that is because there's some really great scenes that I wish they would have drug out when he's first coming back, like those Darth Vader moments, you know, when they have him in what appears to be some sort of stasis unit to kind of power him up and give him the serum. If you would have taken a little bit longer to kind of like bring it up to speed, maybe shown a little bit more of how Earth's mightiest warriors get, decimated by Galactus, because they do a great job of showing the fight between Galactus and Doom, the Titan. But I think that there's a little bit, it's kind of just like, oh, and skip, and then over. And I think that's my biggest thing is they've missed a couple points between A and B.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the only thing I didn't like about this was the pacing a bit. I felt that somewhere in the story, maybe like in the middle act, there was something missing. Like it just kind of seemed too convenient that he instantly gets healed and off we go. And he's back to basics. Like he almost needs, in a weird sense, like a redemption fight, like almost like something to get him back in, not so much with the Heralds, but like something else in that middle section. And I can't really put my finger on it, but there's something there that I thought was just missing. Because I agree with it. I think the pacing was the only thing that I would take some point away from, but it didn't take me out of the story. Like the basic takeaway I got from this is you understand Doom's arrogance, you understand his motivations, you understand what makes him such a feared villain in the MCU, or should I say a feared character, because in his own mind, he does think that he's the ruler of the world and he's the rightful heir to the throne, if you will. And to see that kind of come in and how he interacts, especially with Valeria, like I said, the dialogue there I thought was great. It really gives you a strong insight of what he's doing. And like I say, it gives you a motivation, not so much like a sympathetic, but you can empathize a little bit. Like you understand what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, chat, super chat, throw your grades in out of 10. I'll start with Rich. We have to put a grade on this. What is your grade on Marvel Comics 2024 issue of Doom?
I was kind of on the fence going between two different things here. When in doubt, I always go kind of on the case of, I'm actually going to do a quarter grade, which is unusual for me. So I'm going to go 8.75 because I fell in between an 8.5 and a 9. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a drawn out, especially like with how the story went. I think they hit a home run on everything they did as far as like showing you Doom. They hit a home run on everything, like as far as like, especially now having the, wherewithal to go, oh, where we are today, knowing that this is the start of that. And it's I really think that it actually, that middle piece, I think that really kind of, pun intended, doomed a little bit of the story. I would have liked to see a little bit more of what made him tick and maybe the struggle of getting back on his feet. Because like you said, it almost seems like we get the backstory and then he's back to being 100%.
Yeah.
Like that. And then he's destroying heralds. Valeria sacrifices herself, and then he's basically giving a eulogy to Galactus before, ending it with basically them facing off. And it's kind of a cool look because Galactus is so large. Doom is a normal sized human. And so he's in the foreground. So he looks so small. And then you have, the Watchers just above him, just like, uh-oh, here we go. So I really feel like it ends epically, it begins epically, and then there's somewhere in the middle I just would have liked a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think for what we got out of this, I thought the creative team did an amazing job. Sanford, Greene, and Jonathan Hickman absolutely scripted this perfectly because you left with the greater understanding of Doom. Whether you love him or you hate him, you got it. But I think, though, it was just somewhere in that middle that I couldn't give this like a full A+, if you will. Just because it just seemed too convenient. And granted, it's superhero comics and it is what it is. But it kind of seemed like he instantly bounced back after being floating in space for 2 years, like nothing happened. And granted, he's Doom, reasons, if you will. But I think at the end of the day, though, it was one that the book is amazing on the artwork and the story setup. It's just there's something in that middle piece that's missing. And I think if they had filled this in, this would have been a easy 9.8. But for me, I have to give this an 8.8. And it's still one I definitely recommend. I think it's a great story, especially if you're not familiar with what makes Doom Doom. I love the dialogue, especially with Valeria and Herbie. I like how they set that up, but it's just the one piece in the middle that I think it doesn't take you fully out of the story, but it kind of leaves you wanting a little extra. But the beginning is amazing. The ending is amazing. It makes up for a lot of ground. And that's why you should definitely check it out at the comic shops and definitely check it out before Fantastic Four First Steps hits theaters in late July.
Yeah, which should be the first real appearance of Doom.
Allegedly, depending on how we go. I think there's going to be a teaser of some sort. I don't think we see him on screen, though.
I don't think we'll see him full on screen. Maybe post kind of like the back look. Maybe if they were fans of Inspector Gadget, we'll get like the Dr. Claw like hand. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, or I wouldn't see like a shot of like maybe when the infamous spaceship that's leaving from Thunderbolts, *, New Avengers, whatever you want to call it. When we see that spaceship fly, maybe we get a shot of Latveria and you see the castle of Doom. And you get something like that. That's where I kind of think we're going with this because I don't think they want to tip their hand too much. But there is enough hype around this because after this is done, Ironheart's done. We got a couple more MCU projects coming to Disney Plus, but then obviously the wait begins for what we have with Avengers, Doomsday, and whatever we're going to see with that.
Absolutely.
So a lot of fun stuff happening there. Speaking of fun stuff, we are a comic show, and obviously we are the official kickoff for New Comic Book Day. And nobody does New Comic Book Day quite like the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. So we actually have picks for this week. So Rich,
2 weeks in a row.
I know, 2 weeks in a row. It's kind of crazy because we usually don't do this when we have guests on, but trust us, we have a lot of friends swinging by in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. That's why you got to drop that subscribe button and you don't miss any of the content and conversation happening. But like we alluded to, it's a pretty busy week. What do you recommend to go pick up?
Man, I got 5 reviews this week. All of them were good, so I can tell you that. I'm touching it, but the book that jumped out the most to me is the number 1. It's News from the Fallout, number 1. Chris Condon, Jeffrey Allen Love on the art. This book, oh man, I will tell you, Image Comics is the publisher. Listen, if you like period pieces, if you like alternative history pieces, this is a book for you. But even if you don't, and you just like some really good horror suspense, this is also for you. Listen, I wish you need to go out and see this book for yourself. The book is done in black and white. It is also really kind of cool because the characters are not, I'm going to say it like this. The art is fantastic in this really unique way that makes it kind of like ambiguous to a lot of things. And it actually adds to the suspense and the actual terror because they give you the backstory. Basically, the synopsis, without spoiling anything, is 1962 Nevada desert at a nuclear test site. They are about to test a weapon, and they want to see how people act to the fallout. And basically, the first issue is chaptered Red Snow, which does come into factor at some point in juncture. And this kind of kickstarts the comic and where we're going. A little bit of it's Chris Condon does. I said it in the review and I kind of parry it here. Chris Condon right now in the world of horror is one of the best writers of comic book horror, not mentioning other things that he does that he's great at, but comic books, he's one of the heavyweights up there with James Tynion and the like. It's amazing. And he knows how to build suspense. And mind you, this is the first issue where you're getting a lot of backstory and a lot of what's going to come, but you're on the edge of your seat going, oh man, where are we? You can kind of see where we're going, but we can also kind of not see. And it's just a perfect chef's kiss for a first issue. So make sure you're checking that out because it's tremendous. That's my pick of the week.
Yeah, it's an amazing book too. I got a chance to do the spoiler-free review for it. Listen, trust what Rich is saying with this one. I think this is going to be one of the books everybody's going to be talking about on Wednesday. For me, crazy lineup as always, but one of my favorite series out had a amazing event that's been taking place between this and Batman Superman World's Finest, which I will say is arguably, and I do mean arguably, the best superhero book on the shelves. Arguably.
Singles.
Yeah. Well, like I say, we have debates all the time at the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. Uncanny X-Men is up there too. So like I'd say we have a great, healthy debate about this, but this is one of my picks for this week. Justice League Unlimited number 8. We Are Yesterday, part 6. The crossover event that has been taking place is finally wrapping up. And this is Mark Waid and Dan Mora. Need I say more?
I was going to say, that's a pretty all-star creation team there.
Yeah, and this has been a absolute crazy crossover that's been going on. You get a lot of insight if you've been reading Justice League Unlimited since issue number 1. You get a lot of information about what has been going on there, and the whole story has just been amazing. Like I say, Mark Waid is one of the best writers in comics ever, and what he does with superhero books especially is just next level. And how this whole crossover has come to be has been truly enjoyable for each issue out. And Dan Mora, what can you say about his artwork? I mean, arguably the best artist in the game right now. I mean, he's in the conversation. Like I say, that is when you have two quality creators on this, let alone the rest of the team. They really are going to make this feel like something special. And I think it'll be very interesting to see what everybody says about this tomorrow after you pick it up at the shops. And if you even want more reviews, Nerd Initiative does it like nobody else. I believe over 40 are dropping between the website and the YouTube channel. Website starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the YouTube channel starts at noon. So if you need to know what to pick up, you go over to Nerd Initiative because nobody is talking about it like the home of pop culture positivity. So that said, we've got a lot of things happening here at Nerd Initiative. You want to make sure that you are following us on all our socials, following on YouTube especially, because I'll even throw this up. We really want to make sure you do the homework assignment. It's been a while since I've had to do this, so I had to kind of go search for this a little bit. But make sure you are subscribed to Nerd Initiative YouTube. There's exclusive content that is only coming there. It's not going to Twitch. It's not going to Kick. It's not going to Facebook. It's not going anywhere else. It'll only be there. So you want to make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell everybody to subscribe, especially as we're heading into con season. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But make sure you tap the bell for notifications. So when you see TaP go live, turn a page. When you see Wrestling Night Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Rich and Slam and Sammy, and Play for Keeps on Mondays with Off the Cuff Tom, who jumped in the chat here for a quick second, and Mickey. We got a lot more programming coming on the way, so you want to make sure you tap those bell notifications so you don't miss a chat, and tap the thumbs up to let the GEO Michael know that you like what you're seeing. You want to see more of it. So if you want to see more comic book content, tap the thumbs up. If you want to see more wrestling content, tap the thumbs up. You want to see more Play for Keeps, tap the thumbs up. It's that simple, folks. And that definitely helps us connect with you. And obviously, we'll be connecting with everybody on the social medias this week, especially on Wednesday, because I want to see everybody shoot us a line. What are you picking up at the shops? What do you recommend? Because definitely there's nothing like talking comics on New Comic Book Day. So that being said, on behalf of Rich and myself, we'll end it like we always do. When you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hand, such as Doom by Marvel Comics, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand them a copy. Tell them to turn a page. I'm out.